Hello, everyone. Welcome to eSight Vision Central, watching big game football with eSight Go today on January 30th, 2026. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the first Vision Central in the new year in 2026. So, hope everyone has a good day today and enjoys the topic we're going to be discussing. So today on the agenda, we're going to be talking about some introduction and housekeeping. We're going to go over the eSight Go MSRP, just talk about general candidates for eSight Go if someone's interested to know more about the eSight. And then we're going to talk about our topic of the day, which is watching big game football with eSight Go. And introduction. So this is live, so things might happen. To raise your hand at the end of the meeting, you can press Control Shift and K on a PC or Command Shift and K on a Mac, and that causes your little person to raise their hand if you have a question at the end of the session about the topic or any clarification on that, and Devesh will be assisting with that. This session should only take about 30 to 45 minutes. And if you're interested in accessing all Vision Central webinar recordings, you can go to our eSight YouTube channel, youtube.com/eSight. So the eSight Go MSRP. The MSRP for the eSight Go is as follows. In the US, it's $4,950, and in Canada, it's $6,600. And this is just a discussion here for candidates for eSight Go. If you have a question of whether, eSight's going to help you on an individual basis, I do advise calling in and talking to a staff for screening and kind of individual questions about the eSight Go. But for those that are joining that just have some general information about the eSight, just providing it here. So the eSight was designed to assist those with a visual acuity of 2080 to 2600, and eSight was designed to assist those with central vision loss. And it does help other conditions, but central vision loss is the main condition that eSight can help. And when you are going to be using the eSight, having some peripheral vision is important. eSight can assist a variety of visual conditions, but conditions that affect peripheral vision, such as glaucoma and retinitis pigmentosa, can be a bit more challenging to assist. So just because they do affect how much peripheral vision a person has with those conditions, it does vary widely from person to person, and that's what makes it more challenging. So, our topic for today is watching big game football with eSight Go. Also, just to clarify for those that are wondering, that's also the Super Bowl coming up in February. So we have a number of topics we're going to talk about, just to kind of enjoy that and enjoy the festivities coming up. And our first topic is going to be TV watching with Cosmo and watching the game.
Okay, sometimes I have to stretch to talk about some of these topics, but this one is close to my heart, so this is easy. Lots of stuff to say. When watching the television for sports, you're not going to be staring through eSight the entire time, because for whatever sport you're watching, they're constantly switching back between the wide shot when the play is going on and then the close up in between plays. And so if it's baseball or football, in between plays, they switch to a close up of a guy's face. And if I'm sitting here at times 18 zoom on my eSight, and okay, they're at the wide shot, I'm watching the play happen, now the play's over, and now I'm staring up the guy's nostril because his head's the whole screen on the TV, and I'm zoomed in times 18 times. So the tilt feature I find invaluable on the eSight Go. And so in the mode settings, you'll click mode until you get to tilt, and then it's a digital tilt of the camera, and it can tilt down -4 times, which is 12 degrees. So here in my recliner chair, I've got my TV in front of me. I can lean back, and right now I'm looking at you guys in the camera with my naked eye. But my camera on the eSight, if it was at 0 tilt, it'd be looking up at my ceiling, but it's tilted down at you guys too. So I can just sit here in my recliner and look at the game through my eSight with my eyes shifted up. Right now I'm looking at you through my eSight, and then I shift my eyes down underneath the eSight, and I'm looking at you guys through the camera. So that has made for a much smoother TV viewing experience. On the older eSights with biopic tilt, I would be going like this: flip up, flip down, flip up, flip down, or moving my neck like this. Now I can just relax in my recliner and sit like this, and I've got the best of both worlds. The naked eye, because I can see on my 58-inch TV that's 20 feet away, the guy's giant head on the whole screen. And then I see it switches back to the view of the play about to start. And now I'm looking through the eSight. And I also find it very worthwhile being able to see the scoreboards. There's so many graphics when you watch sports on TV. If it's baseball, how many people are on base? What's the count? How many balls and strikes? In football, what's the down and distance? It's third down and 4 yards to go. There's 2 minutes and 38 seconds left in the quarter. We're in the second quarter. There's so much information that without my eSight, I'm having to sit here and say, what down is it? How much time's left? Uh, and so it gives me a lot of independence. Depending on what sport you're watching, it can be challenging to follow with the eSight just because you're zoomed in and it moves fast. Baseball, for example, little white ball, still not that hard because it's got good contrast. Little white ball on, green grass or in the air, I can follow it pretty good. But football, big, oval ball, brown, fairly easy to follow. And you can certainly on offense follow, okay, they snap it. Is it a run or a pass? It's a run, super easy to follow the ball carrier. If it's a pass, sometimes it's hard to follow. I don't try and follow the ball in flight, but you can tell which direction the quarterback throws it. Is he throwing it right, left, or middle? And then I shift my view over and I can easily follow the receiver, and then he will take me to the ball. And so don't try and get caught up following the ball in air. But with older eSights, it was challenging to watch sports, and with this, it's been a breeze. I watched the entire not Super Bowl series with this on. Go Dodgers! And if it's my favorite football team, I might choose to just watch it on my iPad close up. But for all the college football stuff, I watched this through my eSight, and it's been really good. It's nice to be able to sit back, not be 6 inches from my TV. I feel like more part of the room around me and the people I'm with. If you find the colors are a little washed out, sometimes the screens of the devices you're watching, TV or tablet or computer, can be a little bright for the camera. And for example, the names on the uniforms might be kind of blurred out because the screen's so bright. And you could turn the brightness down a little bit on the screen of your device. That's an easy way to do it. The people with you probably won't notice. Or you can go into your mode and go to exposure. This has been with the recent software update. And you can manually turn down the exposure. And that's changes how much the camera lets in the light. It's essentially like your eSight puts on sunglasses. And that can help a lot if things seem washed out. So that's it for the TV. Real quickly, watching sports in person, I've been to lots of different stuff. I've been to Dodger games, I've been to high school football games, and I've been to a hockey game and an NFL game in person. And it depends on how close you are. I'm not rich, so I can't afford the super nice seats. When I went to the NFL game, I was literally the second to last seat from the top in the new Los Angeles stadium. That was really high. I was above the jumbotron, and with the eSight, I could follow the play and I could see. But this is a digital zoom. The further you go into zoom, and maximum is 24 times, some pixelization is normal. And I realized I'm so far away, I'm better off staying home and watching it on NBC. But when I went to a Dodger game and I had my wife's cousin's good seats, that was fantastic. I could read the names on the jerseys, and that was really good. Stadium security does not give you trouble about these. Any kind of security, whether you're at the airport, they might quizzically ask you, "Hey, what's this?" But as soon as you say it's a medical device that allows me to see, I'm blind, end of story. They're not allowed to keep you out. This is an assistive technology device. And early in my eSight career, I would send the venue an email saying, "Hey, with a link to eSight, here's what I've got. I'm coming this Friday. Just please let your security know." But I haven't found that necessary, and I just bring it in the case. And the nice thing about this Go is it is really rugged. I'm really delighted with how sturdy these plastics are. So sometimes I just carry it in my pocket and carry the neck battery. But this thing works great for sports. The image stabilization makes a big difference. That really cuts down on the head movement. And if you're going to just be sitting and watching the game on TV, you do not need to use the neck battery. You could just plug in straight to the wall. That's always an option. And that's about it, Tyler.
Nope, no, that's great. Thank you, Cosmo. That covers a lot. Great. And then next we're going to talk about ordering food from menus with Jeanette.
All right. Thank you so much, Tyler. If you are, at a sports bar or grill, I know that a lot of people go in groups to watch the big game in bars and group, sports venues and stuff like that. You might find that they have a special menu for the night, and it might be on a single piece of paper. I've seen this before. If it is, you're probably going to have a choice of three different options, three different maybe specials where you've got a starter, a main course, and a dessert. And you may have three different types of starters, main courses, and desserts you want to look through. Or you may be in a restaurant where there's a normal large menu. Either way, I'm going to tell you what I tend to do when I'm looking at menus generally in restaurants or sports bars, even if whether it's a special or whether it's just a normal menu. I tend to find that using either the physical remote or the remote on the app, the eSight Companion app, what I like to do is establish a level of zoom where I kind of have a general picture of what's on the page so that I can see the headings and then I can see the columns of description, but I can't necessarily read them, and maybe some pictures, and I see how to navigate those pictures on the larger menus. On the smaller paper menus that I just spoke about, is probably mainly just going to be writing. So let's start with those. So if you've got a smaller menu and you've got writing on there and you're not really sure what's what, I find that I tend to zoom up to a comfort level, maybe 10 or 11 in my case, and then I can see the headlines and I can see where the smaller print is underneath those headlines. So what I'll tend to do is I will go to the headlines and I will start to zoom up until I can read the smaller print as well. And then when I want to get a general picture of what it is I'm looking at, perhaps I want to see the next headline, I will actually use my spot zoom button, which on the remote and indeed on the eSight Companion, it's the top left button. On the physical remote, it protrudes very slightly, and it's the upper left. It's a very small button. The upper right has a similar small button, but it's more flat, and that is a Bluetooth connection button, which you don't really need very much. So I would tend to press and hold that button, and it will shrink my eSight back to the default one-time zoom. And that gives me a general picture of what I'm looking at on the overall page. So that if I want to move my head to the next heading, once I've read the descriptions of what I was interested in, then I can go to the next heading and then let go of that spot zoom function and read, in finer detail, the descriptions of that. So I really like to do that with my menus. With the larger menus, I think you're just doing that on a larger scale because those restaurant menus tend to be very large. Once you open them, they can be really pretty huge, actually. So I would say that you're going to do the same thing, and particularly that spot zoom function is invaluable, because if you know roughly, what each heading is representing, then you can actually use that spot zoom and then get to the heading that you want and then let go of it. And from there on, you can read the descriptions and the prices of the menu items. So I think that for reading menus generally, I would say zoom up to a comfortable level where you can at least see the what's written on the headings. And then, once you're there, you can zoom up more to see the descriptions underneath. And then when you want to go to the next heading or you want to find another section, use that spot zoom feature on the upper left, whether it's your physical remote or your app remote, press and hold it, and that will bring you back down to the one-time position. And then you can go to the next heading. If you can see the box inside of the eSight that's presented to you that's representing the camera and where it is, that's even better. You can actually, point that to where you want to be looking and let go of that spot zoom, and it brings you right to the spot where you're interested in looking. So I find that really helps. I mean, the other ways of ordering food, you can sometimes get menus on the walls of the, on the screens on the walls of these sports bars. I know that in Panera Bread, even though it's not a sports bar, it's similar, and they might have something like that. And some of the sports clubs do as well. They have a menu on the wall. So in that instance, I would actually be, using a relatively small area of zoom, actually, so that you've got more image coming into your video transmission. So I would use a small level of zoom, identify where the wall menu is, and then you can zoom up. And don't forget, you can use your tilt for that as well. So if you're tilted at, say, -1 or -2, which I know Cosmo also mentioned the tilt, if you need to tilt further, you could go to 0 if you wanted to sort of really look up high. So it's a little bit strange at first to get used to, because 0 is not actually the default sort of straight ahead of you. 0 is looking up towards the ceiling. So if you're looking at something really high, 0 or -1 are the higher levels, like if you're having to look up at something. So you could go to 0 or -1 and then zoom up on the menu and read it. And then if you're looking down at something to read it, it's going to be -2 or -3, and you're looking way down, it's -4. So I hope that helps. It's just a short sort of summary of how you can look at those menus, whether they're on the wall or on the table. That's
Excellent.
it.
Thank you, Jeanette. It's great. And for my topic, I'm going to talk about orientation and mobility in crowded venues. So one of the things you're thinking of if you're going to watch the big game football is that sometimes you have them, aired in restaurants or in bars where you're going to, say, go with a group of friends. You might go up for yourself to go to a venue like that. And, since it's the big game, everything might be really crowded and really hard to navigate through crowds and through what the venue's like. So I thought this would be a good topic to discuss. If someone's, say, going to go out and going to watch the football game, and how to get yourself comfortable in this type of venue. So one of the things that I'd like to emphasize is that everyone has their own comfort level of how they feel when they're in like a crowd, right? In a group of people. And that's one thing I think that when it comes to using the eSight is that with my low vision, I felt very comfortable if I was in a crowded place, and that the eSight could enhance what I was doing or how I was navigating. But there's other people I've talked to over the years and other people I've met where they're not as comfortable in crowded venues, where they're kind of, if they go into a room and it's a lot of people, and it can be feeling very overwhelming and so on and so forth. And so, one of the things that I think is really important to remember is that when you're learning to get comfortable in crowded venues as someone with low vision is that you have a variety of tools with you. And so you have the eSight Go or any of our other eSight products with you, and then whatever other tools that may help you and may help you feel comfortable with that. And so one of the things I want to emphasize from the beginning is that if you're going somewhere with a group of friends or if you're going on your own, that may make a difference in how comfortable you feel. For example, if you're going to a new place, say you're going to watch a football game to a sports bar that you've never been to before, and you're going on your own, that's going to make you have a different comfort level than say if you're going with a group of friends that can kind of give you a helping hand and give you, just make sure you're comfortable in what's going on. So, just keep that in mind in a sense when you're planning things out and just kind of going, okay, have I been here before? Am I going with friends? Am I not going with friends? And that's kind of how I plan on what I'm doing things. And one of the things that I found with using the eSight is that I have other tools in my toolbox. So, for example, for getting comfortable in a crowded venue and finding my way through, I also have my white cane that I can use. And the white cane is great for navigating stairs up to a venue or navigating stairs that might be in the venue that you might not know are there. So, for example, if you're walking through a venue and you're using your eSight to see that there is a bar at a distance where there's a large TV and you're like, aha, that's where the TV is. I can go sit at the bar, watch the game. As you're walking towards that bar, there might be a set of stairs stepping downward, one or two steps that you might not recognize because it's crowded. So say having a white cane and using that to find your depth perception as you normally would use your white cane would be helpful and would be a tool I'd recommend. And combining that with the eSight. So one of the things I've always tried to do when going to new venues, and I think there's going to be a crowd, is trying to figure out what the general layout of that venue is. And the best way of doing that, if you're comfortable with it, is either going online, seeing if there's a floor plan, seeing if there's a general kind of layout of what the venue is, or even calling them ahead of time and just explaining, saying, hey, I'm coming to this new location. I haven't been there before. I have low vision. Is there anything I should be aware of? And I've had great success with doing that. There was a venue I went to for a rock concert once where I had never been there before. I phoned ahead and I just said, I've never been here before. The show's going to be really crowded. Is there anything I should be aware of? And they were like immediately telling me that at this venue there was a set of stairs that covered like halfway through the floor and there were no railings. And the guy was like, just letting you know, there's like two, three steps down. There's no railings. He goes, we have people that are sighted that, might have trouble with those stairs. So we just want to let you know they're there and they're black stairs on a black floor. And the guy was really nice. And then when I actually went to the venue, I had my white cane and I had my eSight. As soon as I was, waiting in line, security saw me like, did you call the venue? I went, yes, I did. And like, oh, and they walked me right to the front of the stage. It was great. They knew I was coming type thing. And so I'm saying, calling ahead, doing some pre-planning may be helpful and may get you comfortable with that. If you're not doing that, say if you're just going somewhere new, that's okay too. It's just a different circumstances. So I would say, if you're going somewhere brand new, don't get a chance to do any pre-planning or calling ahead. Having that ability to go in and being comfortable to use the eSight and other tools you have. So if you're going, normally say to watch a football game, normally on these situations, there's a big screen TV, or there might be multiple TVs, and you might want to look for somewhere to sit. What I would advise is if you're going to a crowded venue, is when you first go in, don't go right into the venue right away. Hang back, say when you enter into the entrance, use the eSight, use the magnification to zoom in and to look around the venue compared to your normal vision. So with the eSight, the magnification, having some contrast should give you a better way to find out the lay of the land. Also useful is that if you're back in your having no vision, trying to find your way through a venue, finding security or being able to tell other staff. So I've been at venues where I've walked in and I didn't know where to go, but there's someone in a yellow shirt or a red shirt, and they're quick to give me give me directions on where to go. I went to a comedy club that's here in Ottawa, for example, and the comedy club is in the basement, and there's a restaurant attached to the club straight ahead. And so when I went in, I saw the security guard. I just went, hey, I said, so I just go up these stairs and into the club. He's like, no, that's the restaurant. You have to make a left and go down the set of stairs. And I'm glad I talked to the guy, right? Because I just would have went straight in and would have been like, where's the comedy? I don't want to eat. So it's just, I was able to spot the staff and find my way through. So when you first go into a crowded venue, try to look for staff. Try to look for indicators that there's someone there that works there. You can ask questions, any concerns that you have. And using that zoom and using that contrast. And then also, while you're first walking in, depending on what the venue is, getting used to the lighting. So having the unit autocorrect for the exposure, but then as you're standing there, you're kind of looking around, saying, off the side of the doorway, you can adjust your exposure for inside that room. So you might find that, the lighting might cause the unit to look a little oversaturated, adjusting that exposure, lowering that exposure, and then that will just give you the best image that you can possibly have. And then as you're scanning through the room, you're making adjustments to see things at the best way possible, and then using that zoom and using that contrast. Now, let's say you're going, okay, I'm going in, want to watch the football game, trying to find where you want to be seated, where let's say, for example, the bar is, where the TV is, watching kind of the crowds and getting an idea of where people are going. So what I find is that if there's normally a main screen or there's a main spot in the venue that you're going to, seeing where the density of that crowd is and kind of following that will normally get you to where you are. And so you're using your zoom, using your contrast, making adjustments to that as you go. Also, you want to be looking underneath with your peripheral vision and going from there. I find that when you kind of follow the crowd a bit as you're in the menu, you're going to get to the right place. Where you want to be or where you're trying to get to. If I'm looking for a screen, normally the screen might be up higher, but then if I walk towards the screen, I'm looking for a table or a spot to sit. You're moving kind of with the crowd, and chances are they're trying to grab seats or trying to get there, what to do. So I was, just advise, taking it kind of slow, and then use the tools of how the eSight works when you're getting comfortable with people. Also, just to be aware of when you're looking around. Say if other you have other tools, like say your white cane, or you're using your eSight, you may have people that might get people's attention in a crowded venue, and to me, that's okay, right? So I would never be embarrassed if I'm using my eSight, if I'm using my white cane, if I'm walking in somewhere new, and I find that gets me even better than what it was. I've had a few instances where I've walked in with just my eSight and someone asked me what it is, and I just say, oh, it's a low vision device to help me see better, etc. And they're like, oh, you can't see well, and I'm like, no. And I might have, a spot. I'm not going to sit near the stage or sit near the event screen, and they'll move me to a nice spot. So there is some kind of advantages sometimes if you're wearing your eSight and you're explaining to people and friendly to what it is, and you kind of get the attention of other people that might help you out. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. The also thing when you're using the eSight, if you're in a crowded venue and it's loud, you might have trouble with hearing the narrator and so on and so forth. So you may want to turn that off completely, just because if you turn the volume up too loud, other people might notice it around you if you're very close by, or you just might have trouble hearing it. So anyway, adjusting the volume, it might not be helpful at all. So that's just something to keep in mind. So that's just kind of some general basics of orientation and mobility in a crowded venue. It really matters. It really kind of takes into consideration how comfortable you are, whether you've been to the venue before or not, and you can do any pre-planning, and just kind of using the tools of the eSight for zoom and contrast and exposure to kind of find your way through when you're dealing with a crowded venue. All right. The next topic we're going to have is tips for cleaning the eSight Go with Richard.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Tyler. Well, when you're all done at the party and you're getting ready to go home, the last thing you probably should do is go ahead and give your eSight a little once-over clean just to make sure you get it all um, nice and spotless. So the eSight comes with a regular cleaning cloth. Now this is going to be fine to use for the outside plastics, just in general as a general clean. When it comes to the screens and the optic in the front, I'll show you what we typically like to use. And that is a regular microfiber cloth that, comes with, most sunglasses or prescription glasses. And this is what you want to use for the actual inside of the screens. You can just gently give them a wipe down. And then you also want to use that microfiber cloth for the front of the eSight where the camera is seated. So you can see there's a little indentation that goes in. You can take your microfiber cloth, kind of pinch it, you can roll it to make it a little bit of a kind of a point there, and just basically stick that in the hole and kind of rub it around, try to clean it. Now, an alternative for that is you could take a Q-tip, and I don't have a Q-tip, but let's say that this pen is a Q-tip, and put your microfiber cloth over the top of it, right? So you're protecting that lens with that microfiber cloth, but you're using that Q-tip so that you can then have a little bit better leverage as you clean the inside of this lens. Okay, so that is one method that you can use with your microfiber cloth. Now you can also order these little lens wipes, these little lens cleaners that you just get off of Amazon, and these are the same thing that you'd use for regular eyeglasses or anything else. And these are like a little moist towelette type of thing. And so I'll pull this out. And again, you can use the same techniques if you want to use a Q-tip to wrap this around and clean the camera lens, or you can also use this to clean the inside of the screens here. So again, these are really cheap. I think I got a box of like 1,000 for 10 bucks, something like that. It's very, very inexpensive. So, so yeah, just gently cleaning all of that. Now the eSight does have a few vents at the bottom. If you wanted to get really fancy, you can always take a can of canned air and blow around those areas, but it's not necessary at all. But yeah, those are some basic tips to keep your eSight clean, and that way when you go to use it, it'll have a nice image and won't be smeared with guacamole or whatever it may be.
Exactly. Sometimes every once in a while with fingerprints or just any debris from food stuff can get into that indentation where the camera is. So, which is tips for, using a cloth to kind of make that clean is definitely important. Sometimes you might have an image from the camera that just looks a little off. We always recommend, one of the first steps is to clean and try to clean those spots to make sure it's not like a debris or anything in the camera lens. So thank you, Richard. That was great. All right.
Yeah, you don't want anything from those chicken wings getting into the camera.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So next, if anyone has any questions for the topic we were talking about, feel free to raise your hand, and Devesh can assist with that.
Yeah. So
And,
I don't see any hands up. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand. I'll unmute your mic.
And you can always contact your coach later if you
Exactly.
want to talk to them or have a question for them.
Yeah, and get more in depth and so forth. But it doesn't look like there's any questions, Devesh, which is okay.
Yep.
So, like I said, you can call in and speak with your eSight coach. If you have general questions about screening, you can call in with finding out whether eSight is good for you or not. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for this month's Vision Central and talking about the big football game. And thank you. And I look forward to seeing everyone next month at the next Vision Central event. Thank you,
Right.
everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.